How's it going, everyone? My name is Isaiah, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the sharing economy and operations management. Though, before I start, I should probably answer a very important question. What is the sharing economy? According to Investopedia, the sharing economy is an economic model often defined as peer-to-peer based activity of acquiring, providing, or sharing access to goods and services that are facilitated by a community-based online platform. Some examples of the sharing economy include platforms that everybody knows, such as Airbnb and Uber. But the sharing economy is much more than just that. Before I go into detail, I'd like to show you a clip of how the sharing economy has changed the life of Emily Castor.
For our economy to truly unleash the power of human productive and creative potential, I believe that we all must have the freedom to quit. 3 years ago, I had a job that I really hated. I was a municipal financial consultant at a large firm where my days consisted of sitting behind a spreadsheet, plugging in numbers into really complex financial models, and kind of sitting there waiting for the results to come out, and it just wasn't me. To be completely honest with you, I probably spent about 20% of my time on Twitter wishing I were somewhere else. But I was trapped. I didn't know how to break free from the obligations that I had to live up to survive. I had car payments. I had really expensive San Francisco rent. I had student loans. I had obligations. And with all those obligations, which all of us have, I didn't know when I would ever get the chance to explore a career that would really help me find my passion. And then I found the sharing economy. I met the sharing economy, and I found that I could get what I needed just by making money from the things that I already had. It all started with my car, my same little sweet Honda Civic that's sitting in the parking lot across the street tonight that I drove here from Oakland. At that time, I really didn't drive my car very much. I lived in the city, and I didn't need it to get to work, and I was thinking, God, this is a waste. It's a waste, and I should really, think about selling it, get rid of it. And then one day when I was on a Twitter break at work and I was reading a tech blog, I noticed that there was a startup out there called GetAround, and it was a peer-to-peer car-sharing network. And they offered to let me do something crazy. I could take my car and hand the keys to someone I'd never met before and let them drive my car and pay me for it. And I thought, that sounds brilliant, because I wanted someone else to have to park my car on the streets of San Francisco. Is really what it was. And so that's what I started doing. I jumped right into it, and immediately I loved the interaction. I loved the fact that I was able to help out someone else who lived nearby, who needed what I had. It was matching up in a very efficient way, a have with a want. And so I jumped into that, and very soon I was earning hundreds of dollars a month. I was able to make this meaningful income, and I thought that this idea made sense in so many ways. It made sense for cities, it made sense for my bank account, it also made sense for the environment. And so I thought about how it worked across all of these other categories. And at that time, there was a proliferation of startups in this space in San Francisco. I joined Airbnb, which was the first big example of this that kind of set it all off. I even joined Skillshare, which allowed me to teach people how to bake pies in my kitchen, had people over to my house and taught them how to make the triple berry pies that my mother had taught me how to make with a careful lattice top when I was growing up. And I joined TaskRabbit. There were so many of these examples. Faithfully, one of them was Zimride. It was a ride-sharing website, really, where you could, when you were going on a road trip, sell the seats in your car to other people who were going the same way. And so I took that opportunity when I was going down to visit some of my friends in Los Angeles for New Year's, and I let other people buy seats in my car so that it would defray my cost of gas, because I was being really thrifty. And I met these amazing people. I loved the camaraderie. I loved the fact that it was efficient because I was already going that way and they needed to go that way too. And so we engaged in this transaction together, and we actually became friends. It was an amazing experience. And soon I went from being a power user to then becoming a blogger and writing about it, because anyone can be a blogger these days. I just made myself an expert. It's a little scary that it works that easily. And then I started an event series, because I saw that people wanted to come together around this idea. And so within 4 months, I quit my job, which was really, really scary. But I now had these little miniature forms of income, all these little sources of revenue that I was earning from the different ways that I was using my extra time, my extra stuff, the things I didn't need to help the people around me so that I could make that leap.
Wow, now wasn't that interesting? Emily was able to leave her everyday 9-to-5 job and start making a new living in the sharing economy. All of the personal examples she provided are just many ways the sharing economy has shaped and changed the lives of individuals. But allow me to explain these examples in a bit more detail. The sharing economy includes peer-to-peer lending, which allows individuals to lend and borrow money without going through a traditional bank. Crowdfunding, which is like peer-to-peer lending, connects people who need money with those who are willing to provide money. Co-working allows for you to kind of share the cost of office rent, utilities, storage, mail, and office supplies with other professionals. And little did you know, but reselling and trading on sites such as eBay and Craigslist are also formats of the sharing economy. Next up, we've got Stephen Miller talking a little bit about how the sharing economy is changing the world around us.
Now, I wrote an article called First Principles for Regulating the Sharing Economy that was recently published in the Harvard Journal on Legislation. And in that, I deal with a lot of the technical issues of this illegality. But I want to focus here today on 4 principles for why you should embrace the sharing economy and ways that it can affect your life. I'm going to call these the core principles: community, ownership, reputation, and equity. So let's start with community. When we think about community, we often think about family, close friends. But in the 70s, a sociologist named Mark Granovetter started thinking about other types of community. And what he was looking at in particular were what he came to call weak ties. These were the people that you barely know. Jane Jacobs, the urbanist, might have called these, in her lingo, hop, skip people, the kind of people that help to bridge boundaries between us. And what he found in his research, and subsequent sociologists have found, is that it's along these weak ties that a lot of information in communities flows. And in fact, the kind of political cohesiveness of our society tends to rest. Well, that's all big thoughts and everything, but I'm going to argue that the sharing economy can be valuable because it provides us these opportunities to make weak ties in communities. Let me give you an example. My family, we rented an Airbnb in a single-family residential neighborhood in Bend, Oregon. And we go there, and we're at the park with my 2-year-old daughter at the time. And we start talking to another guy who's there, who lives there and has a 2-year-old. And we start talking about how hard it is to find a place to go with kids, a place to go out to eat. And he tells us about this little pop-up beer garden that has come up across town where there's food trucks and everything. And he says, it's a great place to go. You should go there. We go, we have a great time. It was perfect. That was the kind of information that wasn't in the tourist books that we wouldn't have found out ourselves. But it was that weak tie that provided us the information to have a little bit of a better time. That's the kind of community building that the sharing economy can really facilitate. But there's another issue of community that we really need to think about. Let's say that instead of just us being there at the playground, there were 15 people that were vacationing in that single-family residential neighborhood, okay? And we were all there with our 2-year-old daughters, and he comes with his 2-year-old daughter. Well, now suddenly, it's not the same type of experience that he was expecting when he went to the playground, right? So one of the issues as we think about these types of uses that allow us to engage in the communities that we visit is that we have to think about the effects on the communities that we are visiting. So while the sharing economy can provide us great new opportunities through things like weak ties to find new ways into the community, we also need to think about the types of effects that we have on established communities and make sure that we're protecting them as well.
As Stephen talked about in the previous clip, there are many ways that the sharing economy is changing the world around us. But how is it changing the business world? The sharing economy has a history of disrupting traditional business sectors. The lack of overhead and inventory help share-based businesses run lean. The increased efficiencies allow these brands to pass through value to their customers and supply chain partners. Traditional industries are being affected by the sharing economy, and many traditional brands will struggle if they do not adapt to the changing landscape. Some examples of these effects include Uber's ascension in the transportation industry. In just New York City alone, there are roughly 4.5 times more Uber drivers than there are yellow cabs. This has caused the price of owning a taxi cab in New York City to drop from $1 million in 2015 to less than $200,000 today. To wrap things up, allow me to show you an interview from Forbes about Airbnb, and my colleague Jesse will talk to you about the impacts it has on operations.
I had a good friend working at Airbnb who told me about the site and said, while you're traveling, you should rent out your place so that it pays for itself while you're gone. So I rented out the entire place for a few weeks while I was down in Central America. It worked so well that while I was back in town, between trips, I just rented out one room and stayed in the second room. So had international visitors staying with me, and it worked out really, really well. I've been kind of doing those two things since then.
And so you've basically been able to support yourself doing that.
Yeah, that's right. My original intent was to take a few months off of work from technology sales, which quickly turned into 5, 6, 7 months off. So I wasn't forced to, leave my place or give up a great apartment here in San Francisco.
So tell us about your place.
I would say number one, I've got a great central location. I'm right in the center of the city. It's a quaint little neighborhood located next to Golden Gate Park. People like the natural light, the theme of plants and clean, simple furniture and a comfortable bed. Based on their feedback, I've kind of improved my place and it's made home a little bit more homey. I always think of it as a little bit of micro-entrepreneurship. You're getting feedback from your customer, who is your guest, and trying to improve your product, which is my apartment.
Do you think this service can work for people either who are already still working full-time or are not in a city like San Francisco or New York?
Yeah, I think so. The thing that I keep on hearing from all my guests is it's not so much just the cost savings, because it is cheaper to stay with an Airbnb guest than it is to book a hotel. Mm-hmm. But it's more about the experience. They want to see what the city is really like, what the people are really like, kind of get an insider's perspective. Mm-hmm. So for that reason alone, I think that this service will really pick up across the rest of the country.
Can you talk about that trust, sort of the trust factor? Because that seems to be a key point for all of these services, right?
Trust is the biggest thing with any of these services. So reviews on Airbnb.
Do you have good reviews?
We've got great reviews.
Of course. Right.
So having that user feedback is really, really important to build trust, as well as having a lot of Facebook and Twitter validations on those services, so you can see, well, they're a real person. I feel pretty confident in those networks, so much so that I trust that they can actually rent a room for me. When
you're in town, you also do some driving once in a while here on using Lyft. That's right?
A few of my friends told me about this cool app called Lyft, where you could basically bypass the cabs here in the city and get a quick ride, based on anywhere you are. So using their iPhone app, it was a really nice way to kind of subsidize my cost of living by driving, a day or two a week. Or, for example, drive out to the airport to pick up a friend. I might as well pick up somebody else or give somebody else a ride there while I'm in my car.
And just so people know, that the way the service works is it's a donation.
You hop in my car, you sit in the front seat, we do a little fist pump. Mm-hmm. That's the Lyft hello, right. And I give you a ride to wherever you want to go.
Has anyone stiffed you?
It's never happened to me, and actually I have never heard of any Lyft driver not getting donated towards.
And then you also have been doing some travel tours for travelers also, right? Through the site Viable?
I was already giving Vespa tours to some of my Airbnb guests. So, why not make that a paid service for people that are interested in paying for it. So through Viable, I give 2-hour Vespa tours in San Francisco.
You have a lot of the travel services. Sounds like you know that area pretty well. Do you think that you'll keep doing this even when you have a full-time job later on?
Yeah, kind of like I mentioned, it's bought me time to think about what I want to do when I go back to work. And I don't see any reason why I wouldn't continue doing these services. And it's something that I never thought I could do. And I've really enjoyed the experience. Having international guests in my place is almost like traveling to their country without having.
As Adam discussed in an interview with Tomio Guron from Forbes, the sharing economy has now become a primary source of income for him. Airbnb is making moves to make this possible for their hosts through machine learning. In a recent case at the Harvard Business School, the effects of utilizing machine learning at Airbnb are discussed. Airbnb has used machine learning to improve the personalization of ranks for guests and to optimize pricing for the hosts. The personalized search rankings have changed from a handful of hard-coded variables to a series of complex algorithms to create a better experience for the guests. As more variables are added to the algorithms in the coming years, the better the experience will become for guests. Price optimization is a feature Airbnb has started offering to the hosts. Airbnb's price optimization feature takes into account 70 different factors to create a price. These factors include hotel rates, seasonality, market popularity, or local events. Price optimization allows hosts to get as much as possible out of their time and room as they can. I hope you have learned how operations management is playing an integral part in the sharing economy. For me and my colleague Isaiah, thank you and have a great day.